Earlier this year, I reviewed the Aiyima T9 amplifier, and it was one of the quirkiest pieces of gear I've ever reviewed. In fact, the video is like almost 30 minutes long, showing you just how quirky this little thing is. Well, I recently purchased the Aiyima T9 Pro amplifier, which is the attempt from Aiyima to fix a lot of the quirks in the original version. Did they fix those? Spoiler alert, some. But I have actually now encountered one strange issue with this amplifier that I have never encountered with any other piece of stereo gear in my 30 years buying and listening to gear. Now, before we get into that, let me grab the camera. I'm going to get up close with both of these and power them on, show you the updated features with the T9 Pro. We're going to compare it to the old version and see what they fixed. And then I'll explain to you what that weird thing is right after that. Now that we're up close, it's pretty easy to see the difference in styling with the Aiyima T9 Pro. Obviously you can see that that's here, it's got Pro on it, and here is the sort of OG model, if you will. One of the other things that I think you'll notice is, actually I need to turn this a little bit, well, this actually kind of plays into my point. The first thing you may notice is that the tubes on the OG version, which are 6 4K tubes, are much taller than the tubes on the Pro model. And those tubes are JAN 5725 tubes. So one of the things I was trying to turn here is just showing you that there is this Bluetooth antenna back here, but you can't see it behind the larger tubes, which actually I've noticed like these tubes get really wobbly, and like you'll see them, they get kind of all funky, especially being this such a small unit and you move it around a lot. So having the shorter stockier tubes are kind of nice. Now it's pretty easy to see that Aiyima made some design choices here in the Pro by adding these orange circles here around the meter and the display. They also added a digital display, which you'll see a little bit better here when I power these on. You'll also note that they did a better job labeling the power button and select, whereas on this unit you just kind of had to guess or maybe see in the manual, excuse me, that this was how you would power it on. You'll also note that there are tone controls on the front of the OG version and not on the Pro, and I'll talk about that in just a second. So I think one of the biggest questions that people will have with the T9 Pro model addresses the clicking noise that the OG version would make here. And in order to kind of show you that, I'm going to power on the T9 Pro first. And there is a click at the beginning, but you'll note that even as I kind of pan through the modes here, no clicking. So if I turn on the old version, there's a click there, and then every time I change to a different input, it will click again. Lots of clicking. So the good news is, if the clicking really annoys you on the T9, but you're interested in the Pro model, that problem has been resolved. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn off this older version because it keeps clicking, and see what I mean? It kind of keeps distracting me while I'm trying to talk about the T9 Pro here. So the thing you'll notice obviously here is this large display, the digital display over here on the left, rather than having a lot of information over here. And this is also where you're going to be able to see your tone control information. And what Aiyima did was they put a lot into the remote control, and so this is a lot more useful than kind of it was on the older version. But you'll see here the tone controls are now on the remote. So if I want to adjust the bass, I can do that way and go down or go up, and then same with treble. I can add treble or remove it via the remote. Now if you're wondering how you can see what input source you're using, you can use that again here with the remote by clicking select, and it's probably hard to see on this, but that says aux, USB, coax, optical, and then it goes back to Bluetooth. So I'm going to switch it here to aux. So on the original version, some people may like that this was here, but it's still pretty small. I mean, granted, on the digital display, the type is that much smaller, but because it's lit up, it's kind of a little bit easier, at least for me, to see. Now, you can also use this button up here to select those in case you don't have the remote with you. Let's see, what else? This knob also acts now as the volume control. So there you go. And if you want to mute it, press in, and then the sound is muted. Just press it again, and the sound is back. And obviously, those can be handled here on the remote as well. And you've got your volume knob down and your volume knob up. And if you want to change the display, you can go brighter, turn it off. You can have sort of right there in the middle. Now, one of the important things to note is that Aiyima, with this new remote control, has fixed the issue that was with the old version, and that was this IR sensor. Whenever I use the remote control on this T9, if you go back and watch my old video, it actually turned my TV on as well as this unit. It was messing up my CD player. It was all over the place. They did a good job of really honing the IR sensor on the new model, and so far this has not interfered with any of my other devices. So that's going to basically take care of a lot of the quirks that this unit had. Aiyima has done a good job fixing it there. The other main difference between these two units is the T9 currently comes in at $129.99 on Amazon, and the T9 Pro is currently at $169.99. Now, just when I think that this is not quirky at all, something weird happened. I'm going to explain to you a little bit more about that next. Okay, before I explain to you what this one really quirky thing was that happened to me with the T9 Pro, I wanted to give a quick shout out to one of my favorite YouTube channels, Potato Fi Reviews. Be sure to click over and watch her reviews and follow and subscribe to her account. She's the one that actually notified me that the Aiyima T9 Pro was available to purchase and suggested I compare it with the original version, which was a great idea. And so I bought it, and here I am reviewing it, all thanks to her. So again, check out her channel. Link will be in the description, and be sure to subscribe. Okay, what's the quirky thing? This is going to be really hard to explain, but I'm going to do my best. There is a coaxial input on the rear of this unit, and that's how I connected up originally my CD player. Now, my listening room is set up so I've kind of got a triangle. I've got my two speakers pointed to a sweet spot, and that's where my listening chair is. While I was listening to my CD player with the coaxial input, every time I would stand up, the sound would drop out. It was so strange, just for a second, and then it would come back on. And at first I thought I was just going crazy, and so I moved over to the couch, and I would stand up, and nothing would happen. I thought that was kind of weird too. Again, while I was sitting down and standing up, the sound would drop out. So I thought, well, let me run this every option I can and see what might be going on. So first thing I did was I hooked up my turntable via an external preamp to the RCA inputs on the T9 Pro, stood up in my chair, and nothing happened. Everything played perfectly. Okay, that's interesting. So then I took my CD player and connected it via the RCA inputs on the T9 Pro, stood up, and again, everything played fine. So I don't know if there's something weird going on with this coaxial input where when I'm sitting in my chair and I stand up, the sound drops out for a second. I tried jumping up and down. I was moving all over the place. I moved the amp location a couple times, and it still would happen in that one spot where I would stand up only using the coax input. So I don't know if maybe I've just got sort of like aluminum foil stuck in my ears or something, or if you've ever had this happen to you with a piece of gear using the same coax input. I would love for you to tell me in the comments if you've ever had that happen, or even take a guess as to what may be going on with this T9 Pro. Now, do I think that's an issue for all of these models? I'm gonna guess that it's not. It's probably just something really strange with this one unit that I got. It's not something that I wouldn't tell people not to buy this unit just because of that. I guess I would let people know it happened with mine, and so it might be something they test out when they buy theirs and see if it's gonna annoy them. But overall, I think Aiyima did a great job updating this from the previous unit, and this one little sort of quirky thing is not enough for me to tell you not to buy this updated version. Now, I know a lot of people are going to ask me if there was a huge sound difference between the Aiyima T9 Pro and the original version. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't hear a big sound difference. I've only spent about 3 days A/Bing them, and they sound very similar. I know the Pro version has different tubes than the original version, but to me, these tubes on these small Class D amplifiers are really acting more as a buffer. They're not providing a huge 3D holographic sound that I'm used to getting with some of my more expensive tube preamplifiers like the like a Prima Luna EVO 100 or something along those lines. So I didn't hear a big sound difference, meaning if you really like the sound on the original version and you're thinking about upgrading, I think you'll still be happy. If you didn't like the sound on the first version, you probably won't like it on the Pro either. I won't spend a lot of time here trying to give you advice whether or not you should buy the Aiyima T9 overall, but if you're somebody that's been shopping for the original version and you've been worried about the issues that pop up like the clicking noises or the bad IR remote sensor, some of those other things, you can be rest assured that those have been addressed and fixed with the T9 Pro. Therefore, I would suggest you spend a little bit of extra money buying the T9 Pro. Again, it comes in at $169 versus $129, but I think all of the issues with the T9 will kind of just annoy you after a while, and since they did such a great job fixing it on the Pro model, that's the one that I would advise people to buy first. Now, my last few videos have really concentrated on some of these small Class D amplifier reviews. I just actually reviewed the Fozzy Audio TB10D amplifier, and if you'd be interested in checking out that review, you can do so by clicking here.